Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Cesar Ravan. Cesar holds more than 10 years of experience providing both clients and exceptional tax strategies. His expertise includes the areas of real estate, restaurants, and professional services, and domestic and international businesses. As managing partner at Ravan Blanco LLP, Cesar drives the firm's mission to provide services at a superior caliber with responsive personal attention for each of the firm's clients, regardless of size. His passion lies in exceeding client expectations and providing financial services for every individual in financial need. Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, Cesar Ravan.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So first off, why do you do what you do?
So it's always been in my nature as a kid and still in my adult life is to help other people, as much as I can, to help the community, help people around me. It's always been ingrained in me that that's what I wanted to do. And I chose a profession, as a CPA to be able to accomplish that.
And recently, we've certainly come across the payroll protection program and EID loans, and you think strongly that accountants should involve themselves in that with their clients. Why do you think that?
Well, because accountants have a better understanding of finances than, on the clients than anybody else. Better than bankers, better than, in my opinion, obviously. We know exactly the ins and outs, of the financials of the client. So being involved in that would help the client understand, one, what they're getting themselves into, what is the consequence of, taking out a PPP loan, and what is the use and how to apply for that forgiveness, which is obviously the government made it, a little more complex than they should have, in order to get that accomplished.
So what did you do? Did you try to connect with all of your clients and let them know, hey, we are going to actively participate in this if you want us to?
From day one. Basically, once this started, I personally got submerged into understanding what it was about and how this was going to affect, my clients. And I've actually given a lot of webinars about this topic, to keep the clients aware of, okay, so if I take this out, what is going to be my tax consequence? As of today, for example, just to give you an example, if you took out the PPP loan and it's forgiven 100%, that's considered income, right? So now the tax strategies are completely different, right? Unless, they come in at the end of the year and they says, no, don't worry about that. That's not taxable, right? But as of today, it's taxed. So your bottom line can be affected.
Right. And what do you think what has been your experience with your customers as they've taken this out? What mistakes were they making before they came to you?
One of the things that they were making mistakes on is there is payroll is payroll, right? So people on employees on W-2, that's self-explanatory. The first mistake they were saying is like, oh, if I pay independent contractors, people who are recipients of 1099s, are those part of my payroll? The answer is no, right? The other broad spectrum of things were utilities. I could use a small portion of that to pay utilities. And they were like, is my cell phone part of my utilities, right? The answer is no, right? So it has to do with rent and certain other type of expenses that fall into the category utilities. But at the beginning, it was very broad, right? So utilities meant a lot of things, right? So those are the two biggest mistakes I've seen going in.
Sure. And in fairness to them, there was a point there in the last couple of months where we were pretty much getting clarifications of clarifications on a daily basis from the taxing authority.
It was a moving target. I mean, it was just basically yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Has that stabilized in your view now?
A little bit. Yes. I mean, now it's basically what's happening, and in my experience, is like now banks are, really putting a lot of pressure on the clients that received it to get the application in. We have been a little bit more of like, no, wait, right? Because there is supposedly a bill in Congress where they're saying as of today is like $1 million. Whoever received $1 million or below is automatically forgiven. So you don't have to go through all the paperwork, right? That on the forgiveness is automatically done. We are not sure if that's going to happen, right? But we're saying let's wait a few more weeks and see what happens if that law passes. Then we'll, then you're done, right? If not, we'll help with the application.
Right. Yeah, and I get that is still a moving window, and I guess we really won't find out till the end of the year. There are longer term implications from much of this too. Like we're going to be settling some of this stuff 2, 3, 4 years from now to undo the craziness. So, what advice do you have for some people to say, look, I'm going to do what I can do now, but I'm going to have to recognize that this is going to be a little bit of a mess for the next coming years.
Right. So a lot of what I've been working with a lot of clients is also making sure for them to understand what we call the burn rate. So the burn rate is basically what's the minimum expense you have, right, to keep the lights on your business, right? So if you have to bring it down to bare bone in order to stay alive, what that number is, right? And kind of work from there to see what necessities you need in order to stay, afloat and stay competitive, right? We're telling clients that, look, we're not over the storm yet, right? Because right now a lot of people are still liquid from the PPP and disaster loan. But once those funds run out, right, which we're expecting by the fourth quarter of this year, until the end of maybe the second quarter of next year, we don't know what's going to happen, right? So stay put. Let's just look at how things are going, and then we'll take it little by little.
Great. And Cesar, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours, and why are they a hero?
All right. So I have 2 heroes. Let's put it that way. All right, so I have one. If you ask me non-sport heroes, it would be Warren Buffett, right? It's his story of how he became who he is, to me, is fascinating, right? I look up to the guy, and everything that he does. Sports-wise, like everybody else, Michael Jordan. It's just his tenacity, his hard work, his dedication. Can't beat that.
All right. And lastly, how can somebody contact you?
2 ways. The best way to do so is actually, through email, right? It's at Cesar@ravanandco.com. That's the best way to communicate. If not, they can reach out to my office. The numbers are on the website at ravanandco.com. We can transfer. Usually we get a lot of calls and stuff like that, and it's always diverted. The best way to reach me directly will be through my email.
Outstanding. All right. Cesar Ravan, managing partner of Ravan and Blanco. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Advice podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
For more Sage Advice, visit and subscribe at sageadvicepodcast.com.